all of your favorite K-News radio programs, now podcast and available through iTunes.
The Bulldog is unleashed. The Bill Feingold Show on 94.3 K-News.
7:37. It's Delirious Friday because Kevin and I are so overtired on Fridays, but we're delirious.
Yes.
But we're delirious with joy because one of our favorite people is on the line.
Absolutely.
Danforth Prince, welcome.
I'm happy. Thank you. Thank you. Nice to talk to Palm Springs.
Yes, Palm Springs is waiting. Now, we got the hottest book in America on our desk 2 weeks ago. It's called Elizabeth Taylor, There Is Nothing Like a Dame. It's hot, unauthorized, and unapologetic, and it's written by Darwin Porter. And, of course, you're the secondary author of the book, and you publish it. Your company publishes these books. And you're taking an oral history of Hollywood and putting it on page so that we will remember our great stars. But I have to give you credit. This book is everywhere. It's on the Inquirer front page. It's on every website. Cindy Adams, who's about 122, writing for the New York Post.
and a fabulous brunette. I think Cindy like Elizabeth, is a fabulous brunette.
Yes, and Cindy's got a mouthpiece on. I've met her a few times, and no dog bites tougher than Cindy Adams.
Honored I am for the support and help of Miss Adams.
She loves your book. So tell us what's going. We'll talk about Elizabeth Taylor, but tell us about the book and where people can get it because it's selling like hotcakes.
Well, I very nice to be with you, Bill. Lovely to be with you and Kevin on your fine show. It's Palm Springs is like a Jerusalem on a hill for me, with my belief that there's more people who understand showbiz in Palm Springs than per capita than anywhere else in the country. So it's awfully nice to talk to a hip audience like such as what you have.
Welcome, but Danforth, we are showbiz. Yeah.
And that's why your show is so divine. I'm so grateful to be on it. Well, let me see. It's really an ode to an era bygone of Hollywood history.
Right.
We, of course, cover Elizabeth Taylor as the protagonist of a complicated 624-page book, indexed, I always say, for the library trade. But
Right.
It's definitely putting Miss Taylor into the context of the high-octane, martini-fueled age of American imperialism, when it was exporting its Hollywood vision to the world at large, Cold War Sputnik issues, blah, blah. And she was being a beautiful, sexy brunette better than anyone else in the world.
Yes.
And we love her for it.
She started at quite a young age. She was very sophisticated, according to this book.
Well, I think Barbara Walters commented about her that she was a woman who was always famous and always operated from within the context of enormous fame. Yeah. The fact that she rode that fame so well throughout different eras, certainly of her career, but throughout changing eras of changing American tastes in, let's name them, beauty certainly, hipness certainly, and managed to ride the sexual revolution as graceful as she did and not be completely ostracized for behavior that in lesser stars would have been probably the end of her career.
I mean, let's say, did the Pope went after Elizabeth Taylor at one point?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Very naughty.
Yes.
And so did the Senate, where she was denounced on the floor of the U.S. Senate as a Jezebel. And I think that she had rises and collapses of public adulation and love that were as great as any other artistic figure of the 20th century, in and out of favor. Condemned and at the end of her life praised and applauded for the marvelous new roles that she found as an AIDS activist, of course, which was absolutely
great.
marvelous.
Yeah, and people, you have to remember Elizabeth Taylor. I mean, yes, she had a lot of men. She was hard drinking. She had a lot of marriages. She also had talent. She could act.
Indeed.
And that's what I mean. To have Lindsay Lohan's playing her in that Lifetime movie, it's going to be
It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be the greatest movie of all time. It's going to be
well.
fabulous.
I'm very touched by anyone who, including Lindsay Lohan, who is working sincerely to perpetuate the image of a great American brunette. Whoopi Goldberg called Elizabeth Taylor a great broad,
right.
And indeed, it is in that context that I use those controversial words. But she was a great broad. We all loved her. She's fabulous. She's just amazing. Tolerant, fun, charming.
When you and Darwin Porter were talking with Danforth Prince, and the name of the book is Elizabeth Taylor, There Is Nothing Like a Dame, and of course you go on Amazon, you could get it. It's 601 pages of hot, juicy Hollywood insider stuff. It really is. I mean, everybody's in this book. From Farley Granger, who Kevin is, I said to Kevin, Farley Granger's in the book. Kevin said, not Farley.
No way.
Yeah, you never heard of Farley Granger.
Never heard of him, no.
Merv Griffin, everybody says, Eddie Fisher, of course, Richard Burt, everybody's in this book.
Yes, it really does make efforts to place her within the context of other actors and actresses of Hollywood in her era, and as you out in Palm Springs so richly know, a dinner party out in Los Angeles in the entertainment industry certainly brings up a lot of gossip, and we did our best to record it as best we could in the pages of this book.
Yeah.
In other words, Marlene Dietrich had hundreds of ideas about Elizabeth Taylor, and they went into the book. Merv Griffin played a role in her life, and the story of that went into the book. So it's cross and compare celebrity gossip, and we're very clear on being, I hope, a mixture of rather scholastic rigor and gossip tabloid street smarts.
And I think it's a lot. I think the book is fun too. At first, I thought I was going to get mad at my friend Danforth Prince.
And everyone thinks that at first. They approach it rather defensively. Yes.
Right, because we love Elizabeth Taylor. But Elizabeth Taylor spent a lot of time out here at the end of her life. She would come out to Palm Springs a lot because the gentlemen who run her perfume business and everything, they live out here. And
nice.
I heard stories about how wonderful she was, the nicest person you could ever meet. But I also heard that you gave her a cocktail, and the next thing you knew, she was cursing like a sailor, and it was funny.
And that is so astonishing that the strictures of Studio Hollywood wanted the illusion to go out, among many other illusions, that she never had a potty mouth. But anybody who heard her talking at a dinner party in Gstaad in Switzerland, she talked like a sailor, and don't we love her for it?
Right. Did anything about Elizabeth Taylor's life surprise you when you were doing the research?
I think I was intrigued by how well connected she was socially as she was growing up as a child, being introduced around Hollywood. Her father was a very close and intimate friend of Adrian, the designer.
Right.
And it was interesting how Adrian would pop off a design for teenaged Elizabeth, which she would then wear to a screen test, and looking more fabulous than any of her competitors because, A, she had tons of talent, and a wee tiny bit because Adrian was plugging for her behind the scenes. Her family was very well connected. There's a long part of the beginning about her being reared in the orbit of the English aristocracy.
Right.
Victor Cazalet, it's quite complicated. Ménage à trois, actually, they talked about. Victor Cazalet may indeed have been her biological father.
We don't know who her father was, according to the book. But I have to say, she's one of the people I never got to meet in person. We were trying to get her on the show when she was out here, but she was confined to a wheelchair. I mean, I said,
yes,
I'll come push you.
I don't think she was good in the mornings either.
Right. I'm going to come and push you, Elizabeth. Don't worry. But I did get to see her in one of the worst things ever. I went to see Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton in New York doing Private Lives when they came back to Broadway. And when she came on the stage, the first thing everybody did was gasp because she was gorgeous. And then the second thing you realized was she couldn't act her way out of a paper bag on Broadway, at least. I mean, this was not her genre, her milieu. However, she and Richard Burton completely dropped the dialogue in the show, and they just had a pillow fight and walked around yelling at each other. It was unbelievable, and we all loved it. We ate it up. I loved it.
How funny. They sort of ad-libbed their way through Private Lives, you say.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Turning a Mayfair drawing room into a whatever they turned it into, pillow fight.
We paid a lot for the taste. Well, the name of the book, again, Elizabeth Taylor, There Is Nothing Like a Dame. It's written by Darwin Porter and Danforth Prince. You can get it on Amazon, all the usual places. It's number 17 on the Amazon list right now?
Well, it bounces up and down.
Right.
I think that there's, if I might say, the progress that this book has taken through the initial stages of, forgive my hubris on this, but initial stages of its fame. Right. We're very grateful to the Globe, who did a very sensitive overview of the book first, how grateful we are to them, and then the story is now picked up in equivalent tabloids like everywhere.
Everywhere. This book is everywhere.
It's like everywhere. And Inside Edition did a piece on the author, which I'm so grateful for, is playing this week. It just won Best Biography for the Southern California Book Festival. How nice of them to recognize this.
And who's next on your list, Dan? Who's next on your list? Well, they're probably gone, so they can't be shaky in their boots. But is there another bio coming out in a little while?
Very nice of you to ask. And before I tell you that, it's very debatable whether any writer can write any credible biography about any character who is living.
Right.
That was the subject of a New York Times op-ed last week about historical truth in biography writing. And if they're still alive and if they're a celebrity, they have so many vested interests that they wish not to be revealed that it can be argued that you cannot write a truthful overview of a historical event until some years go by, 50, and it would be best.
So who's next? Because we have to go. We have a couple of guests coming on.
Yes, the next book we're doing is of Linda Lovelace.
Oh.
And and quite tricky that is, and we will, of course, release that simultaneous with the movie people doing their piece on Amanda Seyfried is doing, I hear, a very good job portraying Linda.
Talk about an oral history. This is going to be
something.
Talk
about an oral history, indeed, and our edgiest book it will indeed be. Linda Lovelace, in her own way, was a huge celebrity.
Right, absolutely.
Spawned a new industry.
Yes.
She was mentioned on the floor of the U.S. Senate, just like Elizabeth Taylor.
I have a feeling Linda Lovelace could have been on the floor of the U.S. Senate. But Danforth Prince, Danforth, we hope you get to California this year so we get to see you. And the name of your book, Elizabeth Taylor, There Is Nothing Like a Dame, and I highly recommend it. You won't be able to put it down, except that it's heavy, so I keep it on the bed and turn the page. Yeah.
It's an honor to be talking to your show, Danforth. Bill. Thank you.
Thanks a million. Coming up, David Steen. It's the Bill Feingold Show, 94.3 K-News.